6 teams most affected by the cap drop. As Adam Schefter tweeted out, it'll be a $180 million cap this year is expected. So I'll let you go ahead and start this one.
Should we just take the Saints off the table?
Sure, we'll just take them off the table.
Yeah,
sure, we'll do
everybody
that.
knows the Saints is number 1. So who are number 2 through 7, basically, is our question. Because it's not the Saints. The New England Patriots, for me, in a good scenario, because, like I said, this is kind of a clean slate. This is what Belichick loves. He loves, getting B-level players for C-level money, and I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities to get B-level players for C-level money because nobody has money to spend. So I think he's going to get a lot of, pretty good free agents on great value, and that's exactly how this team's going to be rebuilt.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I'll just give my next pick because it's kind of in the same line, so we can talk about them both together, which is, the former division rivals, current just regular rivals, the Colts. Just because they both have a lot of money and they're competitive now, you could see maybe Allen Robinson says, you know what, I can't get a big deal right now, so I'm going to take a 1-year, $14 million deal, which is not what he's worth, but just to be competitive for 1 year. And then one of those 2 teams could pick him up and be competitive this year because of that. And I think that those are 2 teams that, if guys want to win, they'll jump on board. And if guys want to prove themselves, they probably feel like, especially the Colts, that's a situation where you probably feel like you can get some good numbers being like a wide receiver in that offense.
Yeah. No, I do think this is a really good scenario for them as well. They have $43 million in cap space. And it's another team. I think the one thing about the Colts is, especially, you look at the teams with cap space, especially, so let's look at top 10 here. I'm going to count this off the top of my head. Jaguars, Jets, Patriots, Colts, the football team, the Bengals, the Broncos, the Panthers, the Chargers, the Dolphins, the Browns are all teams with $20 million in cap space or more. The Colts probably need the least amount of things out of those teams, right? They don't need a whole lot of stuff to improve this team. They have a little pieces that they can plug in and get better, like wide receiver, but they can kind of get away with maybe overpaying situation. This is not really how the Colts operate, but if they wanted to, this is a scenario where the Colts can kind of overpay for a couple players because they don't need a whole lot to make this team great.
Exactly. I think that this is a great thing for them. I think that, again, I don't know how well they're going to do it. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But again, and at most affected, it's positively or negatively. These both are clear positive examples. And who knows? Maybe the Patriots-Colts rivalry could be reunited once again.
Just in a bidding war for all free agents.
Exactly. All right. So now it's time for you can give another pick here.
All right. So you took the Colts off the boards, which was my third team. So we each had, it seemed like, number 2 and 3 after the Saints as the Patriots and Colts. Similar situation here. Kind of, but not really. They have a lot of things that they need to get better at. But I do think the Jacksonville Jaguars can get pretty good pretty quickly here. I think this is a team that had a pretty decent offensive line last season. I think it still has some pretty good receivers. It has a really good rookie running back going into his second year. They're going to get Trevor Lawrence. And this is a scenario where, we just talked about the Colts and Patriots kind of getting their mid-tier talent at, great value. The Jaguars, if they wanted to, could outbid everybody. They're the guy with still $90 in your NFL fantasy draft auction that still has $90 where everybody else has like $5. Because I think this is a team that can, kind of outbid everybody for anybody they want and get pretty good quickly. Now, what they decide to do, is a different story altogether. I do think that they can add some pieces to this offense to make it a really, really good offense next season.
That's a very interesting point because I did not put the Jaguars on my list because my mindset was sort of, well, this could hurt them because they can't give as many big deals, and I don't think they're ready to be competitive next year. So, that might be a factor. But at the same time, being one of the few teams who actually can go out and they could offer Shaq Barrett, 5 years, 20 for $100 million, or and he's one of the old. He's not necessarily the youngest guy out there, but they could offer a big name free agent a bunch of money that they might be looking for that, which they can't get many other places because of the cap drop. So that's such a really good point.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that I think it was a pretty good offensive line. They still got to add a couple pieces there. I think they're going to draft heavily on the defensive side of the ball this year. Maybe this defense stinks next year still, but couldn't you see this all of a sudden if Lawrence? I think Lawrence, is going to be a star pretty quickly in this league. I think we're in agreement that he looks the part. Couldn't you see this being like a top 10 offense in the NFL next year?
Yeah, absolutely. And the offense wasn't bad last year. I mean, Mike Glennon was competent in that offense. Like the offense wasn't the main issue. It was their defense was I mean, I'm not saying their offense was great. It just wasn't that wasn't their main issue. So yeah, getting a Lawrence and maybe getting maybe even a luxury piece, getting Allen Robinson or a Chris Godwin would be great for them. Again, you could offer him a long deal. I think not many other teams are going to want to do that. So yeah, Jaguars are in a very interesting spot, and this could be a good move for them. All right. Any other thoughts, or should I give my next pick?
You can go to your next one.
All right. How about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I think that they're a team that they clearly had a mindset of how to pay everybody, and now that they're having about $20 million less than they probably thought when they went out and got Brady, I think that this could be a real thing. Where now they might have to let a Chris Godwin go or a Shaq Barrett go. On the flip side, this could be a good thing for them because they could get a lot of cheap 1-year rentals, which they're only looking to be good for right now. So they're kind of affected in both a positive and a negative way, which is why they made this list here at 5.
Yep. I mean, I think all that makes sense. I think one thing that we've seen over these last few years is guys want to play with Brady because it means a chance to win the Super Bowl. And I think there's going to be a list of guys who are, older free agents, but still have some value even in part-time roles that are going to want to play in part-time roles in Tampa Bay. I almost said New England. Let me go cry real quick. So like, does James White take less money to get back with Tom Brady in that scenario when it seems like they're going to lose Leonard Fournette to a big money contract? Does, J.J. Watt take less money to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be in a situation where he can win a Super Bowl for 1 year? There's a bunch of different scenarios with this team that they can rebuild. They can kind of reload even if they lose a few of these guys because of the fact that people want to play with Brady, and that's just a fact nowadays.
Yeah, well, and again, with the no state tax thing, I think this factors in as well. With if it's usually a team can sort of just say, okay, we'll throw an extra $3 million at you, but now you might not be able to do that, so that could factor in as well. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here for Tampa Bay.
Yeah. So I think that's an interesting team. It'll be interesting to see what they do. So number 6 here. I'm going to go negative here because I went positive for a lot of them. And I got to have some negativity in my life. The Philadelphia Eagles, I talked about this earlier. I don't really know what this team does. They still had to swallow a lot of that Carson Wentz money, even with the trade. They're still way over the cap. They're at their second highest with $42 million. And even if they get this team under the cap with restructures, I don't see it being good. Like what's the incentive for keeping Fletcher Cox on this team, keeping some of these guys? I think this team's in need and probably going to sell off a lot of their talent this year and could be really bad.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. And I think for the Eagles, should you just tank this year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and plus the last 2 years, tanking has proven to work. I mean, we saw it. The Cincinnati Bengals did it. They got the first overall pick. The Jacksonville Jaguars did it. They got the first overall pick. So, like, if you tank, you can have success. And that probably
the Browns tanked for 30 years, and it's finally working out for them.
Sure. I mean, there's other things that have to go. But again, you have this Jalen Hurts thing where it's like he's looked like somewhat promising. Do you want to just throw him to the curb? I don't know. So maybe you trade Jalen Hurts and just completely go all in and tank. They're in an interesting spot. Okay, so number 7, because we said 6, but since we counted the Saints out, I'll give one more pick. How about the Kansas City Chiefs? Because they're now currently $23 million over the cap. They'll be fine. You can fix $23 million, but now you're probably going to have to make some restructures, push some money down the road, which they're going to have less cap space already down the road. This is, and with Mahomes' contract, it's only going to become less and less. So this could make it more difficult for Patrick Mahomes to get 8 Super Bowls.
Well, so the problem is that, even they restructure some of these deals, I think this team was kind of banking on that they're going to be able to, similar to what Tampa Bay wants to do, I think this team was kind of banking on getting some of these guys to play for basically 1-year contracts to try and win a ring. They don't really have the situation where they can restructure a ton of deals and also like sign those guys to those kind of contracts. They're kind of in this bind where they kind of are just trying to get under the cap and then figure it out from there. So this is interesting, though. So do you think, just hypothetically, they sign Frank Clark and Chris Jones if they know this cap crunch is coming?
Well, I think they definitely don't sign Frank Clark if they knew that he was gonna, not end up being have a very good season this year.
Well, yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, even if they, going into those negotiations, if they knew the cap space was going to be $180 million, do you think they make those deals? No, based off last season's performance?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think Chris Jones, yes. I think probably Frank Clark, no.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, it's just tough because it's like, yeah, you make those deals and then now all this happens. And it's like, well, we're kind of stuck in this now.
Yeah, but also with the Frank Clark deal, I believe they made that the year before they won the Super Bowl. So like, if they don't make that deal, well, then maybe they don't win the Super Bowl. So it's tough to say.
Yeah, exactly. So they're definitely not going to regret it. But at the same time, you're probably looking at this like, well, this changes a lot of what we wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, I agree. All right. The honorable mentions: the Rams are 33 million under, but the Rams, they play with salary cap off. They're going to figure that out. Steelers, as I mentioned, 26 under. They probably can't sign J.J. Watt now and have all of the Watt brothers. I have the Denver Broncos just because they lost Von Miller and they need a quarterback. So they already have been affected by the cap with the Von Miller thing, which I think I'm not sure if the cap mattered, but I think it would. And then the Buffalo Bills, just because they would have had a bit more money to spend on free agents, which now they have to work that out. Any other honorable mentions?
I had the Browns and the Dolphins just because, their team's on the precipice of being really good and still have some money to work with. Now, they should probably address like certain needs rather than big splashy moves, but it remains to be seen what they do with that money. And then, there's teams like where did I have them here? The Carolina Panthers. And this was kind of a goofy one for me. I was like, this is the only team in the division with actually having money. So maybe that's an advantage for them.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting point as well.